Better Human Show, episode 27, Satyen Raja.
The more you push for making things important, the unknown thing that comes back to you is balancing forces. So if I push in health or finance, I may have balancing forces in other ways.
Welcome to the Better Human Podcast, where we talk health and fitness, nutrition, relationships, personal development, and giving back. How to be more effective and an overall better human being. Now, here's your host, David Ratchford.
Awesome.
Hey, Better Humans. Today we have Satyen Raja. Satyen is the founder of WarriorSage.com, and he's a coach to CEOs and other elite performers of all walks of life. Welcome to the Better Human Show, Satyen.
Thanks for having me, David. I'm excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Well, my beginning is I started out in martial arts. I was very influenced by the philosophy, the spirituality, as well as the school of hard knocks that martial arts provided and still does for me. And for me, it's a testing ground, a proving ground for the philosophy of the warrior sage, which is really core to my heart. And the warrior within us is that part that has an obstacle, sees any obstacles, has goals, intentions, desires in life, and goes for it, takes action, concerted action, and creates, generates, doesn't just wait. Whereas the sage within us is the well of wisdom, the part in us that can smile at things as they're breaking apart, knowing that life ultimately, some things dissolve away from our hands. So the sage is having the perspective of staying higher than all your goals and realizing the play of life. And the warrior is the one who activates the play of life. So this philosophy I've been sharing, training, and bringing leaders, influencers into their next level of edge, their next level of evolution. So that's the essence of this path of the warrior sage.
That's a great analogy. Now, tell us a little bit about how you, let's talk a little bit about martial arts and how that led you onto this path. I think that's an interesting area. And since we're just getting to know each other, you should know that I considered myself a warrior for a while, partly because I was dealing with some rage issues growing up, but it led me into the military and then also into martial arts, and now I consider myself a yoga warrior, which is a different evolution. But tell us about how that the martial arts and that fighting spirit, became part of your journey.
Certainly. Well, I was a teenager and I saw Bruce Lee in the TV show Kung Fu with David Carradine portraying Kwai Chang Caine as this warrior sage, this, deadly person, but had a very gentle, loving, compassionate heart. And in the episodes of Kung Fu, he would go through towns and face all types of obstacles. Yet the deepest part of him, his compassion, the depth of his spiritual essence, that was what really transformed a negative situation. And once in a while, he had his martial arts to fall back on if people weren't receptive to the inner work. So that made a big influence in my life, and I sought out martial art teachers who carried that spirit of martial arts being a way of spiritual and emotional and personal development, not just as a way of kicking ass or self-defense, So that journey I started when I was 12, and I immersed myself fully into it. I've been training ever since. So over 35 years now. And my current passion is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu underneath the Carlson Gracie banner here in Vancouver, Canada, underneath my mentor, Marcus Soares and Benito Segura. And, what it teaches me, because my son is now into it as well, what it does for me now is at the end of the day, I can't bullshit myself. I can't just say I'm growing, I'm calm, I'm centered, and I have to prove it. I have to discipline myself. I have to cultivate my capacity to stay centered, stay focused in the midst of, 20-year-olds trying to, break my arm and, take me out. So martial arts for me is a way of seeing the truth of my centeredness, experiencing the truth of, my real capacity to stay calm underneath negative situations, and my real capacity to be a team player and to move forward in spite of adversity. So it's a testing ground, a cultivation ground, and I like to take those principles of the Warrior Sage into everyday life. So, when I'm parenting, I'm a father of 2 teens. I have an amazing wife for 28 years, Suzanne. And, my son's 17 now, and I have to be in my power or he doesn't respect me. I have to be in my sage and my warrior. The sage, so he listens to me. He realizes I'm coming from connection and compassion. And yet I have to put my foot down and make very clear expectations, very clear, focused directions so that we're all moving forward. So that blend is what's really powerful,
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great. I think there's a lot here. Obviously in parenting, having that power and also that centeredness, something that I think a lot of people, that we fall out of because it's just so easy just to react and get angry and to be in sort of that reactionary mode. So that's really interesting. And then the other thing that I liked was, when you are battling or fighting, with others, the other Olympians and elite athletes that I've talked with on this show have always said that it's about getting into that theater, into whether it be towing a starting line if you're an athlete, or getting into that stepping into the ring, and knowing that one is going to become victorious and one is going to have to learn humility.
Exactly. It's certainty with openness, direction with mystery, moving forward while seeing what's in the rear view and realizing and learning from our experiences. I feel that if we're just in the sage, we'll just flow around with life. Sage meaning the wise part or the spacious part within us. We'll just float around. We won't attain anything like the typical, a critique of the new age person where they have lots of aspiration, yet the go make it happen to break through the barrier is not there. And yet then we got the other side, when I'm coaching leaders and movers and shakers and influencers, they've got already tons of warrior. They've been able to make it. They've succeeded financially. They've succeeded in many ways by other people's standard. Yet they haven't cultivated their sage, the part in them that has a higher meaning, the part in them that is connected to the great mystery of being, the part of them which yearns to make a greater contribution, from the depth of their soul, not just more wins and gains in the material world. So this philosophy is very powerful to keep us in our heart, in our soul, and at the same time, action-oriented and making a difference.
Let's look at cultivating that sage for a minute. What are some ways that you actually, you go from the get stuff done, so I assume that people will come to you saying, I'm missing something here, and that missing something might be the wisdom, it might be, a je ne sais quoi.
That's right. It could be a feeling of connection, I use this philosophy that I learned from one of my mentors, Kevin Nations, of the 5 Fs. 4 Fs actually, but I've extended to 5, and that's having equilibrium with our faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. So we could be doing really well in our finance, or really doing well in our fitness, or really doing well in some area of our life. But the tendency is, especially for success-oriented folks, is to really go strong in finances or success, really go strong in some area. But unfortunately, other aspects of our life can suffer because so much energy is one area that the other parts of the lawn of our soul is not getting watered. I've experienced this where, I ran several very successful companies of my own, multi-million dollar companies. And, in that in the energy and power and growth that happens, I spent so much time for a few years on my business helping so many people, but then I didn't realize, you know what? I'm not spending that time with my wife, my beloved. I'm not spending the time with my beloved children. And so I started turning that all around. I realized I saw people in my industry do well financially, do well in their public persona, yet behind the scenes it was crumbling, And I didn't want that for myself. I said, you know what? It's better to have a life of that. My home base, my home plate, my home team is honored, nurtured. They feel grounded. They feel my arms around them. They feel the strength of their father and the love of husband, So I started turning that all around and putting energy back into my family, back into my own health, my own equilibrium, back into having fun in my life, not just going out there. And I got to say, it's one of the best things I've ever done, because now it's the core of my being, my family, my faith. And the finances, paradoxically, have gotten stronger with far less effort. So this is what I train other successful people to bring forth. And quite frankly, I hold them to it in the way of the warrior sage. I don't beat around the bush. I analyze and see, where are you strong in? My gift is seeing where someone is weak in and immediately going right for it and holding them to their highest capacity, rather than something that they've only imprinted from past ideas of success.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is getting juicy. So let's talk about how you hone in on a weakness, and is that something that you look to? You mentioned your gift, being this. Can we talk a little bit about how you discovered your gift and how it's evolved into how you help people?
Yeah, certainly. My gift is, I can take any leader, whoever they are, see where their greatest capacity is, see what will it take for them to be world stage, world influencers. And at the same time, I can also see and sense in a very short time where their deepest kinks are. A kink is like a crimp in a water hose, and if you crimp the water hose, the water flow will be diminished or stopped. And there'll be far more pressure up to that crimp. So I'm able to sense and see, and through my path, my way, I can find out which areas are stuck, and then really open them up. And the three main areas that people have that bring down the successful, many of the successful, the three main vices are sex and relationships, right, as one. Power and influence as another. The desire to gain more power and influence can also bring us down from our ego. And also money and our ability to create freedom. So these are the three, you're a yogi, so in the yogic philosophy, money, sex, and power are the three vices of the successful that have brought down and been the ruin of many.
Sure, and we see that in the yoga community almost yearly. There's another big scandal of something in one of those three areas.
And yet, when these kinks are unwound, when we go to the root of the psychological and spiritual closure or imprint that's causing these aberrations are met and touched, then what happens is the very thing that would bring someone down is actually a portal to enlightenment, fulfillment, and a living that's greater than just the surface attainment state, the way of being, but it's a living that brings us to the depth of soul, to the depth of our spirit, and makes us feel connected to a higher calling. So believe it or not, sex, power, and money can actually be that. And we can actually go through an experience with everyone today so that they can up-level themselves and become stronger, greater, more harmonious in their power as the sage and warrior today as well.
That sounds awesome. That sounds fun. Let's go for it.
Shall we do it? Let's go for it right now.
Yeah, and first describe what's up-leveling for us.
So let me explain what we're going to do and what its outcome will be, okay? So what I'm going to ask us all in the realm of sex, power, and money, sex and relationships, power and influence, money and freedom, the ability to generate the type of life of freedom that you really want. Because really the only purpose of money is to purchase life experiences, is what I've discovered. So I want us all, and please, David, you join in too here, pick a icon in one of those areas, sex and relationships, power and influence, money and freedom, that you admire, that you feel is a stellar human. Maybe not the whole aspect of their life, but at least they have some quality that you admire, that if you were dialed in on that quality, or that quality bloomed inside of yourself, you would feel, you know what, I'm on. I'm lit up.
Okay. So when you say an icon, you mean like a role model, for example?
Yes, a role model.
Bill Gates, icon, who's got $40 billion and is investing in technologies and things that will change humanity and save millions of lives.
In any area.
Kind of okay.
So sex, power, and money. So let's everyone choose one, because what we're going to do is once we choose one, I'm going to guide us through an exercise, an experience from my accelerated evolution work, which will dial us in, which will isolate the quality we wish to see bloom in ourselves. And by the end of this short experience, it should last less than maybe 8, 9, 10 minutes max. What will happen is we will become one with that same quality, and it'll start to flourish and bloom within ourselves.
Okay. I've got my icon.
Okay, who is your icon, your role model?
I'm going to say Bill Gates today. And Bill Gates, because of his vision for the world, the connectiveness of the world, guiding Microsoft into tremendous profits over billions and billions of dollars. And he's also got a charitable foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where they do incredible work. So he's got complete freedom. He can go anywhere, do anything, and help in ways that we're just beginning to imagine. So he's inspirational to me.
Wonderful.
For freedom and for his what he's doing with it. It's not, he's not just blowing it all on jets and debauchery.
Yes, got it. Excellent choice. So someone who's highly successful, one of the most richest men on the planet, but at the same time doing good with his wealth that he's gained and doing excellent progress for society. So excellent choice. I'd like everyone who's, all you listeners, please choose someone that inspires you. Don't just sit back and listen to this passively. You can actually make a shift and a change and move forward greatly today. So pick someone that you admire, and then zero in on the quality of them that you admire. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to, first of all, feel our icon, our role model fully. I'm just going to walk us through this. We're going to feel them. We're going to dial into them. We're going to imagine them, see them at their very best. And then when you're there, I'm going to say something about it, David, so you'll say whatever comes up, okay? Then we're going to let go of your role model. And then I'm going to say, just feel yourself sitting here in this here and now moment fully. And then when you're dialed into that after a few seconds, you'll say something about that, whatever arises. Then we're going to go back and forth like this a few times. And then I'm going to say, I want you to feel both at the same time while you're taking a deep, slow breath in and out. And then tell me what's happening between the two. What's going to happen is that the seeming difference between the two will slowly become closer and closer and closer together. You're going to have a harder time distinguishing you from your icon. And ultimately, at the end of this accelerated evolution experience, there won't be a difference. There'll be a oneness that you'll experience with that same quality. So let's go for it. Okay. So think of your icon now at their very best. Really feel them, see them at their best, exuding whatever character traits that you value. And when you feel them fully, it's very strong, go ahead and say something about it.
He's connecting people of influence in a very big way.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, let go of that. And now I want you to feel just you sitting here in this here and now moment, dialed into yourself, and then say something about that.
All right, so I got to watch Dead Air here. So what I'm feeling is I'm reaching out and putting out a positive vibe into the world to connect people to a better or higher version of themselves.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, let go of that now. And I want everyone once again to dial into their role model. Feel them at their best. See them activating their best quality that you admire. And really dive into it. Feel it fully. And then when you're there, say something about it.
So he's connecting, talking, smiling, laughing, and sharing visionary thoughts and optimism for the future.
Okay, well done. Excellent. Now let go of that side. And once again, just focus on you now. You sitting here in this here and now moment, being present, feeling yourself, dialing into you, and then say something about it.
Emanating positive energy and sharing ideas that can help people grow.
Okay, well done. Let go of your side again. And now once again, feel your role model really at their very best. Magnify, dramatize it. And when you can really dial into them and feel them strongly at their very best, then go ahead and say something about it.
Peaceful, knowing that the contribution he's made to the world is saving lives, feeling gratitude.
Okay, well done. Okay, we're going to go a little faster now. So let go of Bill and let go of your icon and now feel yourself. Sitting here right now, here in the right in this moment, in your power, in your strength, in your aliveness, and then say something about it.
This is already getting hard to distinguish.
Yes, yes.
So I'm starting to feel gratitude.
Okay, well done. Now, feel both your icon and yourself at the same time. And take a slow, deep breath in and out. And share what's happening between the two.
Right, there's a scene in the movie The Matrix where Neo jumps into his adversary and integrates into his body and becomes the Matrix. And that's sort of what I'm feeling, is that this dichotomy is merging and glowing, and it's a high vibration.
Excellent. We're going to do this again, but this time faster, okay? And it's going to become even stronger now. And they're going to be harder to differentiate, but stay with it. So once again, your icon emanating, exuding, being at their very best. And go ahead, when you feel that fully, say something about it.
I'm having a tough time coming up with something beyond gratitude and humility.
That's perfect. Now feel yourself in this here and now moment. Say something about it.
I feel hope and gratitude.
Beautiful. Let go of that and feel your icon as best as you can, separately. Feel them fully. Dramatize it and say something about it.
So I'm picking up a motivation, which is love for humanity.
Yeah. Yes. And now, once again, feel your icon and yourself, your role model and yourself at the same time, and take a slow, deep breath in and out and share what's happening between the two.
Okay, got it. Feeling love for humanity and wanting to help.
Excellent. And we're going to now go through this one last time for anyone who hasn't completely integrated as yet. And this time will be a little smoother and faster. So feel your icon, magnify them, and then say something about it.
Humility and love. Those are the feelings.
Wonderful. Feel yourself in the here and now, and then say something about it.
Humility and love.
Feel your icon and say something about it.
Humility and love. That's all I'm getting.
Wonderful. You've become one with them. So now feel yourself once again and say something about it.
Gratitude and love.
And now the last integration. Feel yourself and your icon, your role model at the same time, and take a slow, deep breath in and out and share what's happening between the two.
So I'm getting a sense of, I mentioned it before, not to be too repetitive, but gratitude, love, and a feeling of, the word that comes to mind is creation.
Yes. Is there any difference in essence between yourself and your role model in this capacity?
Essence, no, we're the same.
So now exude this state of awareness that you're in all directions, infinitely in front of you, infinitely behind you, to the sides, above and below, and own and claim this state of consciousness. And everyone can answer this out loud or journal about this or write about this or just say it into the space. Tell me, what's good about going through this for you and this integration?
It certainly has taken me to a higher vibration where I was feeling, just to be perfectly candid, I chose the freedom or the money because that's an area of strain in my life. And so there's some fear around that in my day-to-day life, and that's gone.
Fantastic. What's good about this for others? How will this integration serve or help or support others?
So a big part of my mission with the Better Human Show is to increase people's knowledge of technologies, of techniques, of things that can make their lives better. So if the listeners actually participate in this and engage in this exercise, I can see it helping them.
Absolutely. What's valuable about this?
It's this is a very quick, it seemed like a very quick it was an exercise that I wouldn't have done without you here, but it was a very quick change.
Very good. And the power of this experience is listeners, please, you can listen to this as many times as you'd like and do this again with a new character trait of someone that you value and that you admire. And therefore, every time you listen to this and dive into this process, I call it accelerated evolution. We up-level our growth factor manyfold from the inside out. And the last thing I'd like to ask is, what is an action that you can do, one action that you can take from this state of being, this state of consciousness, that'll make life easier?
Okay, this is a good question. let me work on this for just a minute here.
Yes.
An action that I can take from that integration, so was visualizing. I imagined Bill Gates at some sort of conference. It might have been Bilderberg or some place where these very elite power players get together to discuss the next 50 years, how things are going to change. But what they're doing is really connecting and exploring possibilities for rapidly changing humanity. And so I imagine that he was in his element there and just talking with people and laughing, but also, connecting and just completely intellectually engaged. And so an action that I could take is just being aware of more people in my life that I need to connect with, and connecting them with others that for example, I might be able to find an introduction that I can make with you, and introduce you to somebody that could up level, a new conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thanks for diving in, everyone who dove in and went along with this experience. And I salute you. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, that was fun. So tell me how you how you develop this process. It sounds a little bit, if I were to go way back to the psycho-cybernetics and some NLP, it sounds like it might have some roots in those technologies.
Yes, and I consider the next evolution of those type of modalities. I call it accelerated evolution. And I actually have an academy for this called Accelerated Evolution Academy. And I train life coaches, business coaches, physicians, therapists, leaders, managers. I train them in these very powerful, very quick, very deep ways of creating shifts in our consciousness, turning problems and obstacles into opportunities, really taking someone who's already highly skilled, like an athlete or an MMA athlete or an Olympian, and then up-leveling them very quickly. So it's a method that I've synthesized from my mentors, a few of my mentors' work, and have up-leveled it. And from the martial art tradition, Bruce Lee's philosophy is you got to keep shaving off stuff that doesn't work and keep including and learn things that do work. So this to me is really the advancement of body, mind, spirit coaching and other realms that we can work on,
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. Especially we're seeing such acceleration in the MMA community. Like if we go back to 15 years ago when it was getting started, the fighting styles were much more rooted in one or two disciplines, and now there's so many disciplines that are coming into the fighters are using just this huge smorgasbord of techniques and tools to become really, really effective in a real brief way.
The mind, emotional, spirit, soul game now is a must, other than just the physical intensity and tenacity. That's extremely valuable and a great pillar to have. But the top of any game now, they got to be dialed in mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to really move beyond what's happening, the others. And we see that in all the walks and professions of life now. It's just known that you got to be a whole oriented being, or else you're going to suffer,
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I want to keep going a little bit more if you've got a few more minutes here.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Cool. And there was a talk I wanted to talk with you a little bit about on ego and humility, because one of the things that it sounds like with the sage part of your philosophy here, I've found, I'd like to discuss how we can go after that sage more.
Yes,
I understand. And what are some of the practices in order that we can use in our day-to-day life, or perhaps even maybe it's not day-to-day, but we have to go through certain experiences or adventures or.
I hear you. Well, the first thing is our ego is a constellation of importances that we've attributed to things. That's one of the ways I like to look at it. In other words, we get into upsets, we get into tensions, we get into ruts, we get into pushing up against other people because we find something important. We've attributed something to be important, which someone else is in contrariness to, and therefore there's a pushback. When we lower our importance around things, naturally what happens is, well, first of all, there's a fear that if we lower the importance, we won't have tenacity or believe in what we believe in, we won't have a stand. It's not actually true. When we lower the emotional charge around anything that we find important, hey, son, you got to clean up the room. Wife, you got to do this way. You're at work and your other people are there and you're in a management or a leadership position. You're like, hey, listen, it's got to be done this way. The more you push from making things important, the unknown thing that comes back to you is balancing forces. So if I push in health or finance, I may have balancing forces in other ways. Some people diet extremely, they push using their willpower, and then they backfire weeks later and gorge because there's a balancing force. So the balancing force is created by our ego. And the way to turn that all around is instead of trying to ram your way, my way down someone's throat, if I'm in a state of service, like when I'm serving my clients, rather than, hey, this is what I have for you, I'm feeling into their family life. I'm feeling into their body. How does their body feel? Is it tired today? Is it tense today? Is it got energy in it? Is there a vibrancy? Or are they crashed? I'm feeling into what would really serve their life to open, to grow, to magnify their soul's calling. And the greatest act of humility, which is your greatest act of power, is subjugating your will to be underneath them. Let your ego be underneath them. And brother, sister, how may I serve you? How may I lift you up? When we carry that goodness of being, when we defer our ego and allow other people's shine to be grown around us. Let me grow their prominence. Let me grow their capacity. How can I help them? How can I serve them to be a greater being, a greater contribution to life? When we come with that in our heart, when we make eye contact, whether it's in our personal and professional life, when we soften our breath, soften the tension in our belly and solar plexus, and truly soften the whole front surface of our body, and then energetically go underneath who we are there to serve and lift them up. This is the most profound act of activated humility, and that comes from the sage. And the results are magnificent. People get greater business. People feel that when I've taught this method, this philosophy to real estate agents, all the way from real estate people, salespeople, to waiters, waitresses in earlier days, to martial art instructors, to top level CEOs, rather than the gaining of power, the gaining of ego, the gaining of prominence that their ego wants, they actually gain it conversely by reducing their importance and making who they're serving the most important.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think, I would love to do a whole show just on that. But I know we're limited on time a little bit here. So Satyen, you've shared some amazing stuff here today. Not only philosophy, but a real practical exercise. I want to make sure that the Better Human audience, that the Better Humans listening to this show can get in touch with you and find out more about what you're doing. Can you give us the best way to keep in touch with you and see what's going on your stage?
Yeah, certainly. Well, those of you who like what I'm sharing here, and if you'd like to stay connected to me and be invited to our exclusive experiential events, we have experiential events online. We have them live. We have our Sex, Power, and Money intensive retreats that we hold. Just come and join us at warriorsage.com and be on our exclusive invitation list, and we'll invite you out to when we're holding online and live events.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sachin. It's been an amazing show, and it's been great chatting with you.
Thank you, David, for the opportunity.
You've been listening to the Better Human Podcast with David Ratchford. For detailed show notes, downloads, and additional resources, visit davidratchford.com/podcast.